Okay, how do we launch a newsletter or how do we produce our newsletter every single week? Most people that are getting this video get our Realmark AI newsletter. And the question is, how do I get that done? Because there's obviously a ton of research. If I pull up my Notion here, you can see I have a ton of articles that come in constantly about AI. So the question is, how do I choose all of this content and decide what's declined, what's not there? Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tom Lyons. I'm the founder of Realmark AI and LyonsInternational.com. And we run a real estate team here in Belleville, Ontario, Canada. So we understand the tools that need to work with real estate and AI with real estate. So one of those things that I provide is this newsletter that goes out to all of you, and hopefully you find it helpful. I enjoy doing it, but the question is how could I get it done if I'm doing all these other things? Because it takes a long time to do a newsletter, and you're right. So I have my AI go out and do the research. So that's a specific skill. Today, we're not going to look at that skill. Today, we're going to look at the skill of actually getting the newsletter from the point of today's newsletter needs to be created to having it actually get out the door. You're going to see me do that live while we go here. So the first step is I look at all these articles that my one agent prepares for me. And these are just like all the things that have happened in the last week. And I see what I like, I don't like. So some stuff is really like this one is a good one. And Groklee is not all that relevant to people. And so I decline the ones that I don't like. So the first piece of this is if you notice, the newsletter is still curated by me. And you're going to see this trend as I go through this whole process that there is human in the loop on a lot of it. So now that I've done that and I've declined the ones that I want to use or don't want to use, I go into Claude. So I'm running Claude code in VS Code. My assistant's name is Fred. Fred is actually agnostic to the LLM being used. So if I had to switch to Gemini, Fred would still work. If I had to switch to ChatGPT Codex 5.6, I could switch to 5.6 and Fred would still work. But I use Claude and a Claude Max subscription. And all I do here is I fire up the newsletter. So we look at it, it's Realmark News, boom, I'm done. So what is Fred going to start doing now? So Fred is going to start going through all these articles and he's going to evaluate them based on what he thinks is relevant to real estate agents. He'll find articles that are good articles, and then he's going to put them on a new spin so that they're relevant for real estate agents. And then he's going to produce a draft for me. So we can see now he's verifying the status on each of the items to make sure they're not used or expired. And it looks like he's chosen some of his angles. So he's getting ready for his draft, but before he runs the draft, he's going to give me his selection. And we're going to decide together whether we think that selection is correct. So what did he come up with? He came up with source articles in the pool. Let's see, top stories from Source B, the web, 5.6 in ChatGPT, work launched, OpenAI's new agent. So I think that's relevant, especially if we have a spin on it. The value gap, I love this one because I just did a LinkedIn post on this, and I think it's really relevant. So many people have deployed AI and they're not getting a return on it because they approach it wrong. So I love both of those. They'll get added to it, proposed angle on it. So this is the approach he thinks we should take with this, the value gap. Everyone has it. AI now, ChatGPT work literally ships finished deliverables for anyone who signs in. Access is no longer the edge. 97 deployed, 11% get value. Proves the differentiator flipped from having the tool to having the system around it. It's not a discipline problem, it's a systems problem, and that's exactly where an agent wins. Yeah, so I love that angle because it's such an important angle right now, is that everybody wants to implement AI, but they're not putting systems in behind it. And we do this with real people too. We hire new hires, but we don't have any operating procedures or we don't have a process workbook for them to work off, and we just expect them to be great at their job, but we didn't teach them the way that we do the work. And so the more I work with my AI, the more I realize that working with an AI has many of the same transferable skills as being a good manager. So I like what he's actually laying down here. So I'm going to tell him to go ahead. And so I tell him keep them all. And what he does now is he creates the full draft in a text file for me. You can see how quickly we're moving along here in this whole process. Okay, so we have our newsletter here. It's written, starts off with this week's insight. Big article here. So like I said, I would edit all of this, going through, seeing what I like, don't like. ChatGPT tool of the week, love it, with the link going to it. Prompt of the week. We come up with a different prompt each week that helps. So I'll review this prompt, make sure that it's correct, helpful. If not, I'll have him rewrite it, or I might rewrite parts myself. So there's the newsletter. So what happens now that this draft is done? He's tested subject lines for me to run. So the one that he liked is from Tom Lyons. We start all of them that way so people know they're coming from me. Everyone deployed AI, only 11% actually win with it. So I like that. It's pretty strong. And then it's created the HTML file for me, and it's created it. So I've shown you what this looks like as the draft for me right here. So this is the draft for me to edit in a quick MD file. I'm using Obsidian to edit these files. And then let's look at the HTML version of this file. I'm going to pull that up. So you notice it looks very similar, except for it's tighter so that it fits on email better. It's got the lines, it's got actual working links. So it looks really similar. So now that I've reviewed this and it's all good, I literally just go publish it. And what happens when I say publish it is it sends it to my sale service. I use Akumba Mail. And some people would use MailChimp. Some people would use MailerLite. It doesn't matter too much the tool that you're using, so long as if your AI is allowed to have access to it to send. So once I'm happy with everything, then I just tell it that it's ready to publish, and it sends it out to my database. Now, I want to include this video in the newsletter. So even though this is written and I've done my edits, you're going to see when you receive it, if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you're going to see that this has been added with the thumbnail in it. So stay tuned for that. But I wanted to show you. So how did I build this? What a great question. The way that you start with any of these is you have to process map out what you want. So let's just create some quick bundles here. We're going to move this over here so you can see it. So let's get this in place. So we need some bundles here so that we can figure out our workflow. And this is the easiest way to just start. We don't need that one yet, so we'll keep it. So what am I including in these? So I know that I need to do research. I know that I need to create the body copy / articles. I know I need to edit. We want a person in the loop. And I know I want my headlines, or more accurately, my subject lines. Move all that over. And then I know that I need to publish. Okay, so I've created a really simple workflow here, right? Boop. Just do that there. So we've created a really simple workflow to do. And knowing that this is the workflow, I have to work out some mini workflows in it. So what does research look like? Research, I need to find the article. So maybe search my email for articles. All right. So I know that is how it's finding it. So when it finds these articles, then I need to know, well, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to search through them? What decision do you make? So I want to map out again this mini workflow. And then what does the body and copy workflow? An example is I might want poor writing checks. And so I might have a set of rules that it has to go through before it actually decides that it's going to produce the actual draft for me. And so once it's done that check, then I have it write the draft. So see how this is coming together, right? Like it has to do this thing before it moves to these things. It has to do these things before it can move to this thing. Then I do the edit. And so with the edit, the step might be wait for approval. So it's just going to wait until I tell it that it can move forward with what it's supposed to do, right? And so subject lines, again, it might be wait for approval and then publish. Could just be publish. And so there might be rules with publish. Ask, I might have a rule for publish that is literally schedule or send. And so it has to ask that question. So see how what we've done here is we've created a workflow that I have to go through. Now I can literally give, like once I'm done creating this workflow out in Excalidraw, Excalidraw is a free tool you can use to create flowcharts. Once I'm done and I think I've mapped this out pretty good, just how I think it should be done, I can literally take this screenshot, save it as a PDF, whatever, and just give it to my AI and say, look, I need you to build a skill. If it's Claude, you're going to tell it, I want you to build a skill around this process so that we can start creating a newsletter. And then you talk it out as it builds the skill out, and then you run a test to see if it's going to produce the result you want, right? And maybe you don't have it do this test yet because you don't want it to publish. So maybe you don't do this, but you have it work out all the rest of it and save it as a draft. And when it finally produces the result that you want and you're happy with the way things are flowing, then you can send it to production. And then it saves you hours every single week. Now, yeah, this takes time to build and the testing takes time to build, but the newsletter used to take me hours to create. Now it takes me less than 30 minutes, and it's better because I read it more. Right? Like I get to spend more time on making sure the content is what I want it to be and rewriting it the way that I want it instead of just creating everything from scratch. Imagine if I have to go through and I'm looking through every single one of these to go, okay, like that one's pretty good, so I'm going to rewrite that article. And then I go down and I have to rewrite another section. It just takes too long to be able to do it on a regular basis. So that's the process. I realize that you probably have lots of questions on it, which is cool, right? So fire off comments in the comment section, fire off an email to me. It doesn't matter to me how you get a hold of me. I love to have the conversation. So just fire it off and we'll work through it if you have questions or if you're struggling with something. Talk to you later.